Howdy! My name is Nonat, and the fact that you clicked on this video means you are either A, someone who doesn't know Starfinder and wants some more information on one of the classes, B, an expert in Starfinder who knows I don't know a lot about Starfinder and thus wants to see my reaction to the class, or C, you just like me. In any case, I'm testing the waters here. Y'all really enjoyed my first impressions of Starfinder video, so I figure I would give one of their classes my deep dive treatment. I know this is a different system, but trust me, even if you don't play Starfinder or Pathfinder 1st Edition, stick around. I will explain things in ways that relate to 2nd Edition Pathfinder, because the games aren't as different as you might think. But real quick, before we get into the Solarian class itself, I need to give a huge thank you to Everybody Games for sponsoring this video and their Starfarer Species Reforged. Starfarer Species Reforged is a massive 300 plus page supplement rewriting the entire race system of Starfinder. And this is honestly incredible. Like, I know I'm being paid to say this, but I am blown away by this book. I will be upfront. This is over 300 pages just about race options, because the whole core aspect of this book is that no individual is the same. No matter what species you are not a carbon copy of another character of that species. Let me give you an example. In normal Starfinder, all Ysoki gain the same ability bonuses and penalties. They all have cheek pouches, they all have dark vision, moxie, and scrounger for specific skill bonuses. In Species Reforged, sure, they all have cheek pouches, but otherwise you get to pick from a list of Ysoki lineages and Ysoki heritage talents. This is incredibly similar to Pathfinder 2E's new Heritage and Ancestry feat system, but honestly expanded even more. So we can see right here the Ysoki gains 1 heritage and 2 species talents from either the Ysoki heritages or the universal heritages, which I think is an awesome idea. So rather than my Ysoki just having dark vision because Ysoki, maybe my Ysoki lived above ground their whole life and their eyes just adjusted to normal light, and instead was battle hardened and took thick coat to get a +1 bonus to his armor class. And maybe instead of just being a stealthy engineer like all Ysoki in base Starfinder, I could take the dive for cover talent. You know, my Ysoki is battle hardened, he has the thick coat, and he's also learned how to make better use of cover with this talent. This is such an amazing idea that lets you truly customize your character starting with their race. Rather than the race just being one of 2 or 3 building blocks, you've been given a whole thing of Legos to make your race. And what's so appealing about this is you can keep yourself as distant or close to the original race as you want, whether your character was part of the integral culture of the Ysoki people, or they're a drifter. They were never part of a Ysoki family, and thus their culture has no say in them as a person. This book is incredible, and I've barely scratched the surface. Again, there's over 300 pages of this. So do yourself a favor, click the link in the description and check out Starfarer Species Reforged. If this looks cool to you, go ahead and give a shout out to Everybody Games, because they have put their heart and soul into this book, and it shows. Thank you, Everybody Games, for sponsoring this video. Let's discuss the Solarian. So the Solarian gets 7 plus their Constitution mod in stamina points, which are very similar to hit points. If you've seen the Pathfinder 2E stamina variant, that's what Starfinder uses as the default. Their key ability score is Charisma, which is fascinating, as we'll get to later, because the Solarian is almost a melee fighter, but they use Charisma. It's really interesting, and it'll make more sense as we get going. It even recommends you pick up Strength as well to be better at attacking. They get 4 skill ranks per level, plus their intelligence modifier, and their class skills are as listed here. Only proficient in light armor, basic and advanced melee weapons, and small arms, so you're not going to be using anything massive, but some pistols might not be too bad for your Solarian. Listed here are their saving throws as well as their base attack bonus. I don't play a lot of Starfinder, so I don't have a lot to compare this to, but you might, so here you go. The The Solarian has a little bit of rogue in them, allowing you to pick 2 skills that are not currently class skills and treat them as class skills. This is really cool, allowing you to customize what your Solarian can do, and you're not just told, hey, you can do these 8 things. Now let's get right into what the Solarian is all about with their solar manifestation. All Solarians have a tiny celestial body around them, typically revolving around their head. This can be a miniature sun, a miniature star, a miniature moon, or if you want to be evil and edgy and mysterious, you can even have a miniature black hole that orbits you. By default, this gives off 20 feet of bright light, but this can be turned off with a single action if you want to keep things hush-hush. I'm really glad they added that, because it would really suck to have stealth as a skill and then you can't turn your light off. The solar manifestation by default has 2 abilities. It can either turn into your solar armor or a solar weapon. If you spend an action to turn it into armor, it covers your body in literal solar armor, which is so freaking cool, and it gives you a +1 bonus to both your kinetic and energy armor class. For those who haven't played, different attacks target different armor classes, whether it's kinetic physical damage or energy elemental damage. At level 10, it gives you a +2 bonus to armor class, and at levels 5, 10, 15, and 20, you also gain 5 additional resistance to energy damage. Energy damage. The downside is you have to pick between cold and fire, but the upside is that whenever you engage your armor, you get to pick. Oh, you're fighting the frost giant of Melchior 7.3 in the Andromeda Galaxy? Ice resistance. Oh, and by the way, this doesn't negate your normal armor. If you're wearing light body armor and you activate solar armor, you get a +2 enhancement bonus on top of your armor. These guys may have low health, but they can be pretty dang hard to hit. Alternatively, if you don't want to make armor, you can turn your manifestation into a solar weapon. You choose between bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. However, keep in mind, when you pick this damage type, it is locked that way until you next level up. So if you pick bludgeoning, your solar weapon is doing bludgeoning. When you level up, you can either keep it the same or change it to one of the other 2. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard weapon. 1d6 damage plus strength, starting at level 6, and every 3 levels afterwards, it goes up by 1d6 damage, and you're always proficient with it, but it doesn't deal any fancy damage. Even if you have a solar greatsword, which it can't be because it has to be one-handed, even if you have a solar one-handed greatsword, it still deals 1d6 damage, it's still physical damage, and you get to pick. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the probably most complicated aspect of the Solarian. Stellar mode. At the start of each of your turns, you need to make a decision. You begin every combat unattuned, but to access some of your Solarian powers, you need to attune to one of 2 modes. These are Photon mode and Graviton mode, and depending on what special abilities you pick later on, you'll favor one of these over the other. Once your turn starts and you enter one of these 2 modes, you gain an attunement point, and at the start of each future turn, you can choose to stay in that mode and gain a 2nd or 3rd point, or unattune and reset. By default, each of these grants a different bonus. While in Graviton mode, you gain a +1 to all reflex saves, increasing by 1 at levels 9 and 18. Just a passive +3 to reflex ain't bad. And while in Photon mode, you gain a +1 to damage rolls, increasing to +2 at level 6, and then level 12 and 18, capping at 4 extra free damage. This includes damage by your special abilities, not just your physical attacks. You will never go beyond 3 attunement points because upon hitting 3 points in a mode, you become fully attuned, which doesn't do anything special, but certain abilities require full attunement in one of the 2 modes. So effectively in combat, you need to decide whether you're going Photon or Graviton and then commit to it, especially if you have any fully attuned abilities, because if you need to switch modes for any reason, you lose all accumulated points, which could be rough. Speaking of those special abilities, your Stellar Revelation at first level. These are the special abilities that require Photon and Graviton mode, and all Solarians start with 2 of them. Supernova for Photon, and Black Hole for Graviton. Starting at level 2 and on every even level, you get to pick a new one to add to your repertoire. So these are almost like spells in a way. This very much feels like a part martial, part spellcaster class, and I think that is super cool. They just don't have spell slots, but instead they have to charge up the energy for their spells. The DC for any of these abilities is going to be 10 plus half of your Solarian level plus your Charisma modifier. Remember, in Starfinder, just like Pathfinder 1st Edition, you could multi-class, but that's why this says Solarian level. If you have 5 points in Solarian and 5 points in Fighter, half your Solarian level is still only 2. We'll be going over these Stellar Revelations as soon as we finish the rest of the basic class features. At 3rd level, all Solarians get Sidereal Influence. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. At levels 3, 11, and 19, you pick 2 skills, one from the Graviton skills list and one from the Photon skills list. At any time during the day, you can meditate for 1 minute to attune yourself to either the Photon side or the Graviton side of these skills. Then, at any time until you either fall unconscious or enter combat, if you roll one of those skills, you can add a D6 roll on top of it. Really super cool, honestly. So if you know you're going to be talking to someone, maybe trying to get a better reward, you can meditate before the conversation, walk in, roll your diplomacy with your Photon attunement, and gain a plus D6 on top of the D20 roll. Also at 3rd level, they get Weapon Specialization, which in Starfinder is just 2 extra damage on all of their attack rolls. At 7th level, they get slightly more accurate with full round attacks, taking only a -3 instead of a -4, and then at 9th level, they get their Zenith Revelation. These are incredibly powerful abilities that usually require full attunement to access. On top of that, unlike a Stellar Revelation, a Zenith Revelation instantly ends your mode and returns you to unattuned at 0 points. You want to use these to finish a battle, and we'll be going over those later in the video. At 13th level, they get Solarian's Onslaught, which allows them to make 3 attacks in a full attack action instead of just 2. However, it is going to be at a -5 penalty if they are melee, or -6 if they are ranged. The Solarian really wants to get up in there and make stuff happen. It's just really risk versus reward because of how squishy they are with their light armor. And finally, their level 20 capstone feature is Stellar Paragon. They can dim the lights within 30 feet. They also gain 2 attunement points per turn instead of 1, meaning they get fully attuned in 2 turns instead of 3. That is the actual really good feature here. They also get some crazy versatility. The stamina system of Starfinder has something called resolve points. You can use those to get your stamina back, effectively healing yourself, but the Solarian can spend those points to either A, become fully attuned in 1 turn, which is nuts, or, equally nuts, spend a point to convert all of their current mode points into the other one. If you currently have 2 points in Photon, you could spend a point to switch over to Graviton. And that is all of their base class features, so let's cover their revelations and the cool things these guys can do. Remember, you get one of these Stellar Revelations every even level, and you start with Black Hole and Supernova. Black Hole is okay. If you are fully attuned in Graviton mode, you can pull all creatures within 20 feet 10 feet closer to you on a failed fortitude save. If they succeed, nothing happens, and regardless, you become unattuned after using this revelation. The range and distance both increase by 5 feet every 4 levels, so at high levels you can pull people a really long ways, but it's just kind of okay. What's interesting about Black Hole is it is actually considered a Zenith revelation, if you have any feats or features that affect those. Supernova, on the other hand, is way more fun because you become a fireball. If you are fully Photon attuned, you can deal 1d6 plus 1d6 per level, meaning 2d6 at level 1, to all creatures within 10 feet of you on a reflex save. And a successful save only halves the damage. This is great. You're gonna be dealing on average 1d6 damage, 2d6 divided by half, but that's so good. In a 10-foot range, you can move yourself and just kaboom. It's a standard action, so you can take a movement and then blow up. This is so good, and in my opinion, way better than Black Hole. And the radius expands by 5 feet at levels 9 and 17. Oh, this is a fascinating feature even I didn't know until I just read it. Disproportionate revelations. As everyone who follows astrology knows, everything in the universe is about balance. This means if you ever have more than one of one type of revelation than the other. If you have more than one photon revelation than you do graviton revelations, you are out of balance. And to become fully attuned requires one extra attunement point. For example, if you have 3 photon revelations but only 1 graviton revelation, if you want to become fully attuned to a stance, you need 4 points, which means 4 rounds of combat. Until level 20, when you can get 2 points per turn, you're going to want to avoid this. That is a super cool way to sort of force players to make different choices. Sure, you might not always get to pick the one you want, but you'll need to keep yourself in balance, and I think that's rad. Starting off, we have the level 2 Graviton revelation, Dark Matter. At any time, even if you're not attuned, you can spend your move action to increase your density. This grants you flat damage reduction against all physical damage. 1 damage reduction when you take this, increased to 2 damage reduction at 6th level, and increasing by 1 every 3 levels. However, if you are in Graviton or Photon mode, it actually does not matter which. As long as you are attuned, your damage reduction is increased to half your level. Flare is a little less exciting. It's a photon revelation that allows you to glow like a torch. You get to choose between dim, normal, or bright light. But what is cool is as a standard action, you can try to blind one creature within 30 feet with a reflex save. If they can't look away from you fast enough, you just burn their retinas out for a round. Additionally, if you're currently attuned, you can instead try to dazzle all creatures within your light rather than just blind one. And this does not have a saving throw. That is just a pure automatic success, and it even says enemies, not creatures. So even if you and your whole party are all clumped together surrounded by goblins, you can flare and just dazzle all the goblins, guaranteed. Level 2 guaranteed status is amazing. Gravity Anchor for Graviton is a okay move action. You basically become a dwarf. And what I mean by that is you get a +4 bonus against Bull Rush, anything that tries to reposition you or trip you. It's fine. It's a nice little +4 against those checks. What's even better though is if you're currently attuned, you can do this as a reaction, which I think is way better. Gravity Boost. Also, I'm going to stop saying Graviton Photon. You can tell which one it is based on the icon next to the name. That one right there is the Graviton symbol. Gravity Boost is fun. By activating this, you can give yourself a bonus to basically any strength-based check of climbing, swimming, something like that, equal to 1/3 of your level. This will never be a massive boost, but even at level 2, it is a minimum of +1. Plus, you can use it to have all falling damage. And what's super fun is once you're level 6, you can literally use this to run up walls and across ceilings. It only lasts for 1 round, and if you end your movement without being able to find purchase, you do fall. But this literally means you could run up a wall and then just grab onto the ceiling and hang there. And I love that. While attuned, the bonuses are doubled, which is a +2 at level 2. Big. Gravity Hold is not just fancy mage hand, but it's a mage hand that can immobilize people. They get a fortitude save, but if they fail that save, they are immobilized and you can even lift them 5 feet off the ground. I see a lot of fun roleplay using this just to help someone like reach the cookie jar or get over like a small cliff that's like 5 feet high and the wizard just has a -3 to climb checks. I think this is a really fun ability. Plasma Sheath is fascinating. When you use your move action, you can basically ignite your solar weapon, or any weapon you're holding, and make it deal fire damage instead of whatever its normal damage is. What's cool about this, at least to me, is it doesn't change the armor class you target. A lot of fire abilities are energy, so they'll target energy armor. But if you're hitting them with a big metal hammer, but you use Plasma Sheath, you're still attacking their kinetic armor class, but you're dealing fire damage. That's a really cool little versatile attack option. Also, if you happen to be attuned, those attacks deal bonus damage equal to half your level. Radiation. You literally just become radioactive, sickening every creature within 5 feet of you on a basic fortitude save. I don't know why I'm saying basic. Basic is not a thing in Starfinder, but I'm going to keep saying it because I'm spent too long reading Pathfinder. And sickened is nasty in Starfinder. It's basically -2 to everything. The only downside is the second they move away from you, the sickened goes away, and they're immune for 24 hours. But if you are attuned, it does increase to a 10-foot range. It's just tough that if they can just walk away from you, this isn't that useful. But combine this with Fancy Mage Hand, and it's terrifying. Stellar Rush. Oh my god. This is a bull rush, which means you sprint at somebody and gain a bonus to attack them. And if you hit, you also deal 2d6 bonus fire damage. Sorry, not even if you hit. It's just when you attempt it. Even if you miss the melee attack, they still need to make a reflex save against 2d6 fire damage and half on a success. And this starts scaling pretty well. 1d6 bonus damage at 6th level, and then an extra d6 every even level after that. That would be such a fun build, is just a Solarian that sprints at people. Alright, these next revelations are for 6th level and higher. Astrologic Sense just lets them cast Augury once per day, but you can sacrifice a resolve point to cast it again. If you don't know, Augury is basically you asking the stars, hey, what's gonna happen today? And the GM just tells you, good, bad, little of both, or nothing. That's the spell. I kinda love it. Oh, in Starfinder, I don't know if it's this way in Pathfinder, Augury actually only senses the next 30 minutes and gives you the result, but if you're attuned, it senses the next hour of time and gives you the result. Neat little bonus. Blazing Orbit is hilarious, especially if you have a high movement speed. As a move action, you move up to your speed, but every square you move through ignites in 2d6 flames, or flames that deal 2d6 damage. What this means is if you have enough movement speed, you can walk in a circle around somebody, and they have to walk through it. The damage goes up by 1d6 every 2 levels, and if you happen to be attuned, anyone who takes this fire damage also takes 1d6 burning damage every single turn. This is awesome! I'm loving the idea of a Solarian that just runs around and rushes people on fire all the time. Blur that out. As a standard action, you gain 10 resistance to cold damage, and anyone who hits you takes 2d6 fire damage. The damage and the cold resistance scale okay. This one's kinda boring, but it is fun to have those little bit of thorn damage on you sometimes, especially if you're playing some kind of Solarian tank. And what is fun is while attuned, any creature that starts its turn next to you takes half your level in damage. It's not a lot, but it's guaranteed. Crush is so mean. You target one creature within 30 feet, and if it fails its fortitude save, they become staggered. For those of you who don't know what that means, normally in Starfinder you can take a move action and a standard action. If you're staggered, you can take a move action or a standard action. On top of that, you can do this every single turn until they succeed. If they succeed, they're immune for 24 hours, but you're just removing their ability to move or attack. That's so gross. And it works on constructs. Oh, and by the way, if you're attuned, you can sacrifice a resolve point to make it stunned instead of staggered, meaning they drop everything they're holding, they're flat-footed, and they don't get to take any actions that turn. I love this. The Broadway musical Wicked allows you to fly once. It's fine. You fly up to your speed. If you don't land on solid ground, you fall. Once you're 12th level, you don't fall immediately, but you need to somehow have another move action that turn, otherwise you still fall. Luckily, if you're attuned, you get to fly 10 feet faster. Blow of Life is pretty good, but only for you. Spend a resolve point to gain hit points equal to double your Solarian level, or if you're attuned, triple. You can't use this more than once per short rest, quote unquote, when you get your stamina points back, but it's a cool way to have some self-sufficiency, self-restoration. Just a shame you can't use it on others. Gravity Surge is just really great. You get to disarm or trip with a 30-foot reach, you use your charisma instead of strength, and it gets a flat +4. What more can you want? Oh, what more can you want? Well, if you're attuned and you successfully disarm them, the item flies into your hand. Or if you trip them, they're also pulled 10 feet towards you. This is awesome! If more combat maneuvers got this kind of treatment in Pathfinder 2e, maybe people would do more than trip. Hypnotic Glow is Charm Person, with the added benefit that as long as they don't see you when the effect ends, they don't even realize that they were charmed at all. Really good ability, only a duration of 1 round per level, and you need to be at least level 6, so you're getting at least 30 seconds of Charm Person out of this, if not more. It's pretty great. The only downside is you can only do it to someone once per 24 hours, and even a high-level Solarian is only going to get 1 to 2 minutes of charm out of this. But once you hit 9th level, you can charm monsters too. And if you happen to be attuned, you can even get a few effects of command in there, not just charm. Overall, kind of a cool ability. Reflection is basically manipulating gravity to cause a ranged attack that missed you to go for somebody else. If you took the fighting defensively action last turn, I'm not going to talk about it, look it up, you can spend a resolve point to, as a reaction, redirect a ranged attack that missed you towards anybody else. You make the attack roll, albeit at -4, but hey, that's a free attack. What's kind of cool though is the damage is determined by the original attacker, not you. And if you're attuned, you don't take a -4. That's great, a full bonus attack and it missed you? Beautiful. 10th level Revelation, starting with Soul Furnace. This is honestly really strong. If you are suffering from any kind of affliction or condition that came at the result of failing a saving throw, you can spend a resolve point to make another saving throw against it. And if you succeed, goodbye. This is only limited by saying that you can only do it once per, quote, short rest when you get your stamina points back. Oh, also, if you're attuned, on top of making that saving throw, you can also just freely end bleeding, blinded, burning, cowering, dazzled, exhausted, fatigued, frightened, panic, shaken, or sickened. One of those. Just for free. Stealth Warp is fine. Stealth Warp is fine. By spending your move action, you give yourself +4 to stealth checks. This is useful if you're already in a good hiding place and just want to get that bonus to hide. But if you're attuned, it makes you incredibly hard to see. Basically, you become hard to detect. You can hide even if someone is directly looking at you, but this doesn't make you vanish. It makes you more similar to Pathfinder 2e's concealed condition, but if you manage to get behind any kind of cover, they will lose sight of you. This is similar to invisibility and ends if you make a hostile action. What's cool about this, though, that it states is on your turn, you could take a hostile action with your standard action and then instantly stealth warp again, which I think is hilarious. Pew! Pew! 14th level, Gravity Shield. For a move action, you get +1 to AC. Alright. If you're attuned, this gets a little more complicated, but very useful. While attuned, Gravity Shield actually spreads out, covering basically 3 connected sides of your current space. You know how your space has 4 sides? Well, this covers 3 of them. And any attacks coming to you that cross through those sides of your square, you have cover from. Pretty neat. Doesn't help you from that 4th side, but that's most of your base is covered. I'm sorry, does that say 400 feet plus 40 feet per level? You have to be level 14. Sunbolt has a range of 960 feet at level 14 for 9d6 damage. Okay, it's once per 10-minute rest, but good lord! And if you're attuned, you get a +2 to hit. 960 feet? It's not per level after taking this. It's per level +400. That's amazing. Holy crap. Level 16, Ultimate Gravitron. Ton. There's no R. I want it to be Gravitron so bad. Ultimate Graviton is interesting because it doesn't actually have any active effect. Instead, it passively buffs all Graviton stellar revelations, not zenith revelations that you have. First off, any Graviton revelation that targets one creature can now target two, granted they need to be within 20 feet of each other, and it increases the fly speed from Defy Gravity. You can do both effects of Gravity Anchor. Gravity Boost can now be used on acrobatics alongside athletics, and you're immune to fall damage. Again, this is all just passive as long as those revelations are active, and with Reflection, for the one reaction, you can keep reflecting more ranged attacks as long as they keep missing you at an accruing -2 penalty per attack. However, if you miss any of your reflected attacks, you can't chain anymore. This is basically keep going till you miss, but if you're attuned, there's no base penalty, so it's full bonus -2, -4, and then you're probably gonna miss. Similarly, Ultimate Photon buffs all of your Photon Stellar Revelations, not Zenith Revelations, increasing any of them with a radius by 10 feet, and anything that would last for 1 round outside of Photon mode now lasts 1d4 rounds. Additionally, Astrologic Sense can now see 2 hours into the future. Glow of Life is a swift action heal instead of move. That's massive. Hypnotic Glow's duration is doubled, which is very nice. And Stellar Rush gives you a +2 to energy armor until the beginning of your next turn. These are amazing, and I love this. This is probably a must-take one of these two, depending on your build. And that is it for the Stellar Revelations. Now it's time to look at the 5 or 6 Zenith Revelations. As a reminder, you need to be at 3 attunement points, which typically takes 3 rounds of combat before you can use these, and using them resets you to unattune. Let's take a look at the first one, which is called freaking Miniature Star. Oh, interesting. The Kineticist playtest for Pathfinder 2e basically had this. Miniature Star. Create a star in a 10-foot radius sphere that fills your square. Any creature sharing one of the star's spaces takes 1d6 damage for every 2 levels you have, so at least 3d6 damage. And any creature within 5 feet of the star takes half of that. This does get heightened at 17th level, but it just gets a little bit bigger with a little bit bigger of a burn radius. Anyone inside or near the star is actually gravitationally pulled towards it, turning it into difficult terrain. You need to spend twice as much movement per square. What's cool about this is it doesn't say difficult terrain. It says it takes twice as much movement. So if you put this on top of difficult terrain, it doubles the movement penalty of the difficult terrain. I'm just saying, if a wizard can throw down a Tanglefoot or a Growth spell or something, and then put a miniature star on top of that and someone's stuck in the middle, that's gonna hurt. It lasts for 1d4 plus 1 rounds, and you are immune to all negative effects of the star. Ray of Light is like an 800-foot teleport. For your move action, you turn into a Ray of Light, move at the speed of light to any square you can see within long range. In Starfinder, long range means 400 plus 40 feet per level. If you're level 7, that's like 700-ish feet. No reaction can stop this. You move through anything except for things that would block light. So you cannot move through completely solid objects. You can't move through something that would refract you into a million different pieces, even though that would be hilarious if you did this like through a prism and all of a sudden there was just 8 of you. But if you can see 800 feet away, you're there now. Oh, and at 17th level, you can bring a friend along. Ain't that nice? Solar Acceleration is haste. You and up to 6 allies get hasted. And then at 17th level, the speed bonus from haste doubles to 60 extra feet of movement. It's great. It's not, like, insane. But it's a free spell. It's free. It takes 3 rounds to charge up. I don't know. It's fine. Starquake. You move that big cake through the battlefield, and anybody you pass by needs to make a reflex save or be knocked prone and take 1d8 damage. Honestly, this is fine. You do get to move up to twice your speed, which is cool, but it only goes up by 1d8 every 3 levels, so at level 10, it's only 2d8 damage, but it is a move action that lets you move double your speed, which at that point is probably going to be 60 or 70 feet, and deal damage to everybody you pass. Honestly, not terrible. Time dilation. It's slow as a 30-foot cone. Oh, that's disgusting. So it's slow, but anyone who fails their fortitude save is slowed a number of rounds equal to your Solarian level. That's at least 7 rounds of slow, and it'll only go up as you level up. And once you're level 17, even a successful save is still slowed for 1 round. That's disgusting. Wormholes, to close it all off, is pretty cool. For your standard action, you create 2 wormholes, one next to you and one medium range away, which is up to 100 feet plus 10 per level, so at this point, 170 feet away. You and any other creatures you designate can use these wormholes to move and keep moving with a move action. For example, if you have a 30-foot move speed and you move 15 feet into the wormhole, you can move the rest of your 15 feet out of the other end of the wormhole. So with that 30-foot movement, you actually moved 200 feet. The wormhole lasts for 1 round per 2 levels, so for 3 rounds right away, it ain't bad. And at 17th level, you can create 3 wormholes, basically allowing anyone who goes into one wormhole to choose either of the other 2 as exit points. What makes this so crazy powerful to me is the fact that only your friends can use it. Only people you choose. If you need to get out of Dodge fast, you can cast wormholes and just choose only my party. Those goblins can't follow us. And everyone just zoops and you're 200 feet away and the goblins can never catch you. That's awesome. And that's the Solarian! Now, Starfinder has been around for a while, so there's a lot more to this. There are so many Stellar and Zenith revelations available to the Solarian. For the sake of brevity and not overloading yourselves and me, I'm keeping this to the core rulebook, which means our video here is done. Please, if you enjoyed this, and more importantly, if you want to see more Starfinder content on this channel, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're really close to 25,000. Huge shout out to Everybody Games and their Starfarer species Reforged. Go out, buy that massive supplement, and make a Solarian with one of their crazy in-depth customizable species. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. The list of people to thank at the end of these videos is getting very long, but I appreciate these people because they give me money. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, no nat ones. In space!